My name's Carol Johnson, and I'm the Director of Community Programs here at the Johnson Foundation. And I'm delighted to welcome you this afternoon. I think we're all excited to learn where the University of Wisconsin Parkside is in terms of the new Educator development program. We're very pleased that they were willing to come back to the Johnson Foundation and conduct this briefing this evening. I think a number of you were here last year when they presented the concept for a completely redesigned, new thinking kind of approach to teacher education and professional development that will be offered at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. It's very exciting. They've been very creative in thinking of what our teachers of the future will really need to be highly effective educators for our children in this and the next century. So we're really excited that they're here. They shared with you last year, with all of us, the process and the vision that they hold for creating this program. The result of that work is a program that will have long-lasting and positive impacts on southeastern Wisconsin, our students and our educators. The bold decision that they made, and I think it was indeed a bold decision, to put into place a flexible, adaptable, professional educator program. It will set Parkside apart from their peers and will demonstrate clearly their commitment to our community in this very new age of collaboration. And many people in Racine and in southeastern Wisconsin have been learning a lot about collaboration. And the exciting thing is to see the University of Wisconsin Parkside has marched full steam ahead in that spirit. I know we're eager to hear more about this framework, and now, therefore, I am excited to introduce to you UW Parkside Provost and a generally sparkly, wonderful person, Dr. Terry Brown. She will begin this afternoon's session.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you all for coming to this community update today on the creation of a new professional educator program at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. We have a full house once again this year, nearly 130 registrants for this annual update, which is an indication of the importance of the preparation of great teachers to the future vitality of our schools and our communities. Regardless of our occupation or role in the community, we all have a stake in the preparation of great teachers. I'm very pleased that so many people with diverse roles in the community are here today. We have local school district personnel, representatives from public and private schools in the region, local and state government workers and elected officials, business and community leaders, members of the local media, parents and citizens, higher education partners, and UW Parkside faculty and staff. It's vitally important to all of us and to the success of our initiative that we keep you informed of our progress in building a great new program for the training and professional development of teachers. Wingspread is a fitting setting for our community update, as it has been a convener of conversations about topics that are of utmost importance to our community. So before I go any further, I want to thank the Johnson Foundation at Wingspread for once again providing this perfect venue for our community update. We would like to thank Ashley Stake, Community Program Associate, for all her work in coordinating today's event. And then also, we're especially appreciative to Carol Johnson, the Director of Local and Regional Community Programs here at Wingspread. Carol's been a partner in this process since the very beginning, and she's always been willing to share her insights and enthusiasm for our initiative. We have accomplished so much since our update a year ago. Last year, we likened the creation of a new teacher preparation program to the building of a new house. A year ago, we had a blueprint drawn up, but we had not started building. A year later, I'm pleased to report that we have laid a strong foundation and framed in the walls of our new house. We will be providing you today with a description of that framework that we've built. And in the coming year, we will be focused on the completion of a livable house with all the appropriate approvals so that in fall 2013, we can begin moving in. The building of a new teacher preparation program is part of a larger initiative at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside in academic planning and curricular change. Through a faculty-led process, we have created a forward-looking academic plan that reassesses our curriculum to be sure that we are meeting the needs of today's students and the region that we serve. In April, the faculty gave their seal of approval to our plan, aiming high and making excellence inclusive, an academic plan to lead UW-Parkside to 2020. The plan sets a high bar for achieving academic excellence. I do that every time. Accidental excellence. No, that's not what we're about. Academic excellence. I got to change it around. And distinction across the disciplines with a focus on areas housed within 4 new colleges: arts and humanities, natural and health sciences, business, economics, and computing, and social sciences and professional studies, which is where our future teacher preparation program will be housed. The initiative that you will hear about today has all the hallmarks of the kind of academic program that we believe will distinguish UW-Parkside as an educational leader in the state and region. It is learner-centered, designed to serve the needs of the region, with an experiential learning component integrated throughout. UW-Parkside graduates are ready to succeed on the job or in graduate school and as engaged citizens the day after graduation. That's a guarantee. Today, you will learn about how our new program was forged in collaboration with internal and external experts and stakeholders who contributed endless hours to bring forward an exciting, innovative program for training, preparing, and supporting future teachers. We will share how the program was designed to address specific challenges that are unique to K-12 settings today. It might be helpful, before we begin, to share just a note about terminology. Throughout the design process, we've been very intentional about the way we use language. We have thought that certain words like teacher and student are associated with a 20th century paradigm of education. They are words we are all comfortable with, but they conjure images, at least for me, of my 5th grade teacher in our classroom, students all in rows with the teacher at the head of the class. And the only technology in the room was an opaque projector. Words like educator and learner are more appropriate for the 21st century learner-centered paradigm. You will note as well that we use the word pathway rather than program for reasons that you will understand as you listen to our speakers. Many individuals have been involved in the planning and designing of this new program. So before introducing our speakers, I'd just like to ask everyone who's participated in this project, either on the coordinating council or the design teams, to stand. Okay, thank you. And you'll note that you also have a handout of the people who have participated in this. We're also pleased to have Dr. John McGarris with us again this year. John came out of retirement to help us get our new program started, and we've asked him to be with us again this year to participate in our panel discussion. John, thank you. So now it's my honor to introduce our speakers for today. Vicki Brown-Gurley is a member of the University of Wisconsin-Parkside Coordinating Council, which oversees the creation of the Professional Educator Development Program. She is the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning for Kenosha Unified School District. She has over 25 years of experience at all levels of education, from first grade to college, and she has provided leadership in the area of principal preparation. She is currently a candidate for a PhD from the University of Illinois, Chicago, in the area of curricular design. Her area of research is on effective urban school leadership. Pat Hoffman has had 40 years as a public school educator. She has taught elementary, high school, college, and graduate school. She worked for 13 years in Kenosha Unified School District as a teacher and as a building level administrator, and 23 years as the assistant superintendent for Burlington Schools. She is currently serving as the executive director of the Office of Teacher Preparation and Professional Development at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. Maureen Carvan has been involved with the reform of the education system since 1983, the year that A Nation at Risk, the Imperative for Educational Reform, was published. The report was a landmark moment in the history of education in the United States. For nearly 30 years, Maureen has worked in the field of education as an urban middle school science teacher and as a university faculty member with expertise in curriculum and instruction. She has also held leadership positions in the Ohio Department of Education and the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, and is a member of the NCATE Board of Examiners. She is currently an academic planner in the Office of Teacher Preparation and Professional Development at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. And Dr. Debbie Ford is Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin Parkside, and she is one of only 3 college presidents serving on a 41-person National Commission on Standards and Performance Reporting for the Council for the Accreditation of Education Preparation, the new professional accreditation organization for teacher education programs in the United States. So now let's hear from our first speaker, Vicki Brown-Gurley.
Thank you, Terry. I am honored and humbled to be here today to help share with you the work that has gone on in creating the Professional Educator Development Program at UW Parkside. I'm also honored to be a member of the Coordinating Council and the design team structure as an external collaborator with the university team. As Terry has shared, I've been in education almost 25 years. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, a product of the Chicago public school system and the state of Illinois university system. I've been a teacher, a principal, a college professor, a director, and spent the last 3 years as executive director and assistant superintendent. I've had the opportunity to work in public, private, and religious schools, as well as suburban and urban school systems. In that time, and through those experiences, I've seen a great deal. And I know a great deal about what it takes for students to be educationally successful. The times that we are in have proven to provide challenges unlike any we've ever seen before. The challenges for educators and students in the 21st century are truly different. We are working to prepare our students for a world in the future that has yet to be fully defined. Looking at those challenges on a large scale or a macro level, our schools see 4 main challenges facing teaching and learning. The first of those challenges is around technology, where the challenge lies in how to use the best technology available to enhance learning at all grade levels. The next challenge comes in the form of globalization and recognizing how the experiences, background, and cultures of others add depth to student learning. The next is in constantly adjusting to limited resources to provide a high-quality educational experience while with a finite amount of financial and non-financial resources. Finally, at that macro level, the challenge of looking at ways to collaborate, partner, and join to collectively forward the learning for all comes in the form of using human relations effectively toward common goals and positive outcomes. Now, as we look at those challenges, those macro challenges on a smaller local or micro level, we see those same challenges playing out in our classrooms every day. Educators confront the challenge of technology in discovering of how to personalize learning for all students, to not just meet their academic needs, but to provide meaningful, real-time learning for a generation of learners who are accustomed to 24/7 access to information of all types. Through a focus on globalization, we need to strive to incorporate the voices and the experiences of students and other cultures into the daily learning experience in an authentic way, to deepen the students' learning, to prepare them to access the diversity our society has to offer. With limited resources, we have to find creative ways to help our students to be innovators and problem solvers, to address the challenges with resources that we see in our world today. And we must focus on helping to not only prepare students to collaborate with others to solve problems they may encounter, but to model those collaborative practices ourselves as educators, to collectively enhance the educational experience for all students as a part of human relations. Addressing these challenges is exactly what UW-Parkside has done with the Professional Educator Development Program. In doing so, UW-Parkside has brought together the collective voices of the internal, the university, and the external, business, civic communities, and the schools to develop a 21st century program that integrates elements to address the macro and the micro challenges we see in schools. I can't tell you how significant it is that UW-Parkside, from the very beginning, has involved the larger academic and non-academic community in helping them create an educator program that is adaptive, flexible, and responsive to the needs of our region and to the larger worldview of K-12 experiences. This is not the same old in terms of creating a curricular program. This program is forged at the community level, working with the community to provide educators who will influence and prepare students within those communities to make our region stronger. This program will be a model for other institutions, and they will mirror it. And fundamentally, I believe that it will influence the dialogue around educator preparation in our nation. I am pleased to be here today and confident in knowing the collaboration of the internal and the external resources has led the program to where it is today. The future is bright for educators in southeastern Wisconsin, and I know school administrators can't wait to begin welcoming in students from this program into their district schools, because those individuals will be prepared and supported in a way that truly represents 21st century learning. Now, at this time, I'd like to introduce Patricia Hoffman, Program Director, who will share more on the program design. Pat?
We have indeed been fortunate to have Vicki serve on our coordinating council and on one of our design teams. I think her active involvement and support truly indicate what it has meant in terms of that external piece in and the voice of reality helping to serve us. Well, you have to know that a year ago I was sitting out there where you're sitting, and I was a member of the coordinating council and very proud, excited about the vision that we had developed, and moved and really excited by the commitment and the energy that I felt, and inspired by the vision. So inspired that I'm here now. And I am the director of what is going to be the Institute of Professional Educator Development. And we're working on that, and we have little signs next to our phones that we're practicing for when we come live on that. I have to tell you that in 40 years in education, this truly is the most collaborative process that I've ever been part of. And that makes a huge difference to me. When the university actually invites other people into their business and welcomes them to the table, and people show up and are excited to be there and to have a voice, it was really something very different for me. And I have to say, too, that being involved here is somewhat of a capstone for me to my entire career, to be able to come full circle. Because what educator hasn't sat around and talked about, boy, if I could fix the schools that prepare the teachers, if I could go back and change the way they got me ready for the classroom. The University of Wisconsin is creating that program, and that's an exciting thing to be part of. Over the last year, I've had the privilege of working with many of those design teams, and sort of gotten to see how the sausage was made, if you don't mind that metaphor. But it was a really robust process of collaboration and commitment, asking not only the right questions, but the hard questions about the work that we were undertaking. We really had to put aside the mental models and assumptions, the beliefs, in order to rethink educating educators in the 21st century for the 21st century. It was calling upon us to leave our respected but isolated areas of expertise where we'd always been able to reign pretty supreme, and to get beyond our comfort zones. I think that that was a key turning point for most of us, to begin to leave what we had always thought about of the educational system and program and preparation of teachers and move forward. Now, by now, you really should be thinking, okay, so what's so new? What's so different? What's so 21st century? Well, I'm not going to go into the same details that Maureen will when she speaks in a little while, but I want to tell you what some of the key aspects of that difference are from my perspective. First, the very process that we used. That makes it 21st century. We did not create this within the walls of the university. This was no ivory tower proposition coming to you from on high. We really truly partnered with business, civic, and education communities to identify and explore what was going to be needed to help students learn and to really address those challenges that Vicki talked to you about. It is a different world out there. It's not your old second grade anymore. The other innovative piece of the program you'll hear more about from Maureen, but it's the individualized nature. We're going to be designed to take educators from where they are in their academic or professional lives and provide various pathways to becoming an educator. University of Wisconsin Parkside is a regional university that serves a wonderfully diverse population. It is indeed our strength. And we want to join people in their life journey and help them to meet their goals and aspirations. The third aspect of our program is the clinical base. Our program allows for early and often intentional experiences in classroom and community settings. Traditional teacher educations have always included observation and exposure to classrooms. But our program is getting future educators into classroom settings early, working with children and with professional educators. Candidates are going to be able to assess their disposition for teaching early, and then gain greater levels of actual experience and develop a network of mentors and fellow practitioners. And that really logically leads us to the final but critical component of our program, which is ongoing professional mentorship and development, well beyond the end of your formal training. Some have called this our cradle-to-grave proposal. I would rather not think that our educators are going to die on the job, but that they will actually continue to live and thrive and come back to the university to join some of our other programs. But we really think that you must be connected with a network of ongoing support. That game's not getting any easier out there. We have to have professional support and professional learning communities. Our educators have long been served with our outreach programs at the University of Wisconsin Parkside and our License Renewal Center. We're joining forces with this powerful department to allow us to create a community of educators, all focused on addressing the challenges in our midst that we know and those that we have not even imagined yet. So, what makes this innovative? 21st century process that makes collaboration a given. individualized plan for all candidates, clinically based programs that make theory and practice one, career-long mentoring and support. I'll switch this way. Those four are the tenets of our new program. I started by saying that one of the great innovations is indeed that process through which this program was created. In that regard, we owe a lot to our coordinating council, incredible staff, and 9 design teams with their 88 members who participated in dozens of sessions, leading to understand the critical components required to ensure educators would be ready for the realities and the possibilities of 21st century classrooms. Each of those design teams contributed their time and their talent and their passion to the work that was ahead of them. And I really believe that our entire region is going to benefit from their labor and their innovative thinking forever in significant ways. Each team was given a specific task, area of concentration, statement of purpose to help guide them. Then they did the heavy lifting themselves to drive the specific outcomes that led to the framework for our program, including the various pathways to licensure that you'll hear in a few minutes. I'm really setting you up, Maureen. They can hardly wait. So collectively, they grappled with so many different questions. I just want to give you a flavor of what they were addressing as they went through this process, starting with what does it take to be an excellent teacher in today's demanding environment? How do we prepare educators who know what it means to be culturally competent and then can demonstrate that in terms of their pedagogy in the classroom? How do we continue to support, encourage, and advance learning of our graduates throughout their career cycle? How will we integrate the clinical, hands-on experiences early and often that will actually foster leadership skills and talents within our candidates while immersing them in the lives of educators and their students in ways that build understanding of the work of teaching and learning? How do we create a program that's flexible, adaptable, and forward-thinking that allows for a process of continuous evaluation and alteration as the needs of our region, our districts, and our communities are indeed changing? How do we recruit, differentiate this program to potential students, to those who are first-time, first-generation college students, to those with degrees who decide, oh, what I really want to do is teach, to those career changers, veterans returning, to those who are already licensed professionals and decide that they need to teach in a different area, want another license? This is only really a small piece, a sample of the nature of the work that was taken on by design teams. The real evidence of the outcome of their works in the program framework itself that Maureen will be sharing. I do want to take a moment, though, to just personally thank a staff that's been incredible, that has worked really, really hard. From Shannon McGuire to Maricela Malakara Wood. She's trying out the new name now. So. Denise Hancock, Michelle Plimmel, Maureen. It's just been an amazing team. And Mary Jo Jider. Mary Jo, you're supposed to sit in the same aisle. She does this to me all the time. But it's amazing to work with people like this. The kind of support we've had has been incredible. And there's times when it just goes 24/7, all-nighters to get things done. And so I really appreciate everything that everybody has been able to bring to this work. So, where are we at now? Well, we've met with the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, and we're working with them for our approval, and that process is well underway. It's very important. We have received UW Parkside Faculty Senate approval for the program, and that's enormous for us. And also for creating the Institute of Professional Educator Development. I have it written down here, so. This institute will become part of the College of Social Sciences and Professional Studies at UW Parkside. In the months ahead, we'll be working collaboratively with our faculty to create the actual education coursework, to build the specific licensure programs in the various majors, the art education, music education, English, math, science. We will soon begin marketing our program in preparation for welcoming our first official students in the fall of 2013. And in collaboration with our newly formed governance structure, we'll be developing the job descriptions and recruiting the faculty and the staff who will join us in the fall of 2013. As we were a year ago, UW Parkside remains inspired, committed, and confident that this program will prepare educators for the rigors of addressing the challenges of the 21st century. This is a positive move for our region, and it complements all of the work that's being done to enhance southeastern Wisconsin as a great place to live, work, and learn. Our entire region will benefit from educators who are prepared to meet the challenges of the 21st century, supported and mentored throughout their careers, ready and able to support all students in their quest to become college and career ready. Now, please join me in welcoming academic planner Dr. Maureen Carvan, the woman responsible for the process and the structures that have allowed us to get to this place. Maureen?
Thank you, Pat. Hi, everybody. I have to thank Vicki, Pat, Terry very much for setting me up because I've got a lot to say. So bear with me. I am going to be providing a little bit more detail about the structure of our program and the program framework. It's really great to be here with you this afternoon to share this. This work is exciting. This is a novel program and a novel process. Like Vicki and Pat, and I know Debbie and Terry as well, I've been a professional educator for 30 years. I've been an urban middle school science teacher. I've been a university professor. And I've been a member of 2 state education agencies, and all of that work has given me multiple viewpoints, multiple perspectives around change in education. I've been involved in a lot of change in education. I've been through middle school theory. I've been through, I can't tell you how many different science reform movements. And I can tell you honestly that I have never been involved in a change initiative that has been as energizing, inspiring, or compelling as this particular enterprise. I've had the honor of facilitating the design and development of this program since fall of 2010. As part of this highly talented UW Parkside team, I've worked with the Coordinating Council and the 9 design teams as we've worked together to generate this framework. I am very proud of the level of commitment, creativity, and focus demonstrated by all of the talented people who worked to bring this program to life. And many of you are, of course, in this room. This evening, it's my honor to present our work to you. Let me be clear. I'm not going to be describing a lot of the nitty-gritty details about the courses or experiences that we'll be offering. As Pat explained, we've just had the program framework approved on May 8th by our Faculty Senate, and we'll be collaborating with our partners to complete the development of the curriculum and integrate it into the framework over the coming months. While we've made a lot of progress since our community briefing last year, there's still some work ahead of us as we get ready to open the doors to our program in fall of 2013. What I am going to share with you are details about the framework itself. Now, let me reorganize here because the microphone is shadowing my words. I'll describe who this program was designed to serve, the dynamic process of individualized development that is at the heart of this design, and the flexible pathways to our licensure that we'll be offering. I'll also describe the clinical practice model that is the foundation of the design for developing professional educators, a design that makes this a program of and for the 21st century. So let's get started. We have been and continue to be, as you've already heard, intentional in developing a program framework that's focused on providing meaningful professional learning. It's designed to be responsive and flexible, nimble even, And we've integrated a structure that will support continued professional learning over the course of the many twists and turns of the educator's career. As we designed the program, we never lose sight of the guiding principles that the Coordinating Council challenges us to hold. We never lose sight of the characteristics of the regional 21st century learning community that we are committed to creating for southeastern Wisconsin. I feel it is important to emphasize key characteristics of this learning community. Those characteristics underline how complex the design challenge continues to be. So what is 21st century learning community? Well, that community is one in which the economic potential of the region is realized through a highly connected global network. The regional economy is driven by global needs and markets. There is a high value placed on learning, social equity, and mobility because these capacities are vital to meeting the challenges posed by a rapidly developing global society. In our region's emerging future, innovation and entrepreneurship are actively developed human capacities, and it is done primarily through our regional educational network. Citizen engagement is high, and it's fueled by the increased access to knowledge, information, and people in positions of power that is made possible by ever-advancing technologies. Technology is a disrupting, not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a disrupting influence onto traditional models and boundaries of our current educational system, as it is on so many other systems. And paradoxically, that creates two different kinds of opportunities. One for things like massive online classes taught by, say, some really, really great professor from MIT, while at the same time, you can have custom-designed, highly individualized learning experiences, sometimes even in those massive online classes. Accountability for learning is shared by the community as a whole. Government, business, citizens, and educators, because it takes the whole region to support the development of our human capacity to innovate and create. We are all in this together. So, that was not a tiny challenge. So we knew we would really need to work together as a community to create a framework for our program. One that would develop our educators to be innovators, able to meet the future challenges so eloquently described by Vicki, that we can't yet fully see or anticipate. The process that was described by Pat keeps us focused on creating a program for this future and not on recreating our mental models of teacher training from our own past experience. And we have honestly and from our hearts collectively risen to this design challenge. Well, what does that mean? It means we worked together to design a system that starts with the development of current and future educators where they are right now. We call these people candidates and place their learning and ultimately the learning of the young students and adult learners they serve at the heart of this design. As a program, we need to meet our candidates where they are and design an individualized plan for their development. That plan will be aligned with the needs of the educator and the identified needs of the region. This plan takes educators into active professional work settings, balancing the development of knowledge and understanding with the development of skills, strategies, and expertise in the actual work of education. And the plan doesn't end with the granting of the license. The framework supports continued learning and advanced professional development across the career of the educator, from the point at which he or she steps onto the path of the license until reaching a well-earned retirement from whatever place they are in the education system at age 90, maybe. Because as you can tell, we never retire. Right, John? We like to say that once you've begun educator development at UW Parkside, your learning becomes our shared responsibility, and that shared responsibility lasts for the rest of your career. So that's the big picture of what we've been up to, and now I'd like to get to some more specifics about the program. So first of all, who do we serve? We spent a lot of time on this, actually, and we recognized that we are working with 3 specific kinds of candidates. First, we are working with some candidates who will enter the program with little or no college experience. But they come to us knowing they definitely want to be an educator. The most common term, honestly, is I want to be an 8th grade teacher. And they're looking for a pathway for fulfilling that vocation. These students are what we call early declaration candidates, who are essentially the typical undergrad education student who knows that they want to be an educator, and whatever degree program they're enrolled in, they're completing that degree so that they can fulfill their calling to teach. Other candidates might come to us with a considerable number of college credits or even an existing undergraduate degree. We're calling this category of candidates late declaration and post-baccalaureate candidates. They're the middle bubble. These are candidates who are just realizing that they want to shift their focus to becoming educators. They may have played around with it for a little bit before they got to this point. Some of them may have actually had this as a long deferred dream, but they're deciding right now in this moment they're going to go ahead and take that step. These candidates have slightly different needs than those early declaration candidates who are just beginning their path. And the third category of candidate, and is one that not many people actually thought of as a candidate at the beginning, are people who already have a professional license or credential in education, who are already fulfilling a role in an educational system, and who are interested in entering the program so that they can earn another credential, expand their knowledge and their expertise, learn how to mentor, learn how to coach, learn how to be a support for their fellow educators. And for some of them, that path eventually leads on, like it did for many of us, to graduate school and doctoral degrees, and then you wonder, why did I do that? Depending on which of these student profiles applies, the pathway through the program will be different, and it has to be. This is one of the critical aspects that makes our program truly unique. Regardless of the student profile, all candidates need to have some shared experiences, especially in the field. And all candidates will need ongoing individualized attention from day one. This individualization is made possible through a systematic process of assessment, advising, placement, more assessment, support, more assessment, and all of that begins the moment the candidate declares his or her intention to become an educator or to seek further professional development. An educator development advising team will work with candidates to create individual development plans. Those plans lead to a license, credential, or some essential professional development that the candidate themselves is seeking. These individualized development plans are reviewed each semester, and the candidate's progress towards meeting benchmarks within his or her program pathway is assessed at critical transition points. So we work with a candidate to make sure that their development proceeds in ways that allow them to continuously be successful in gaining knowledge, in learning their practice, and beginning to apply their practice. And we provide them support so that they never go beyond what they have the capacity to succeed at. Once that initial plan is created, the candidate's pathway through the professional educator development program really begins. So that individualized plan is one of the first things that happens. It happens whenever you say, hey, I want to be a teacher. We'll get the team together, sit down, and we'll start doing this planning process. And every candidate will have clinical experiences that are designed to meet them where they are in their development as educators from day one. So let's talk a little bit more about those things. What do we mean by clinical experience? We've designed our program to provide learning in professional settings. That means these are people who are becoming prepared to become a particular kind of professional. That preparation needs to take place in settings where work is actually happening, so they can see it, so they can experience it, and so that they know what they're getting into. These professional settings are called clinical placements. In these placements, which can be the actual professional work environment of the candidate for an advanced professional development, our candidates gain experience in settings that will range from community programs, business school partnership programs, and school classrooms, so that they are getting the hands-on exposure and practice in the areas that is most appropriate to their level of development in the program. For candidates who are early in their development, they may not have had many opportunities to really experience school beyond their own experience as a student. Their learning as a student in many settings can give them some idea of how complex it is, but they need other experiences as well. And so we provide preclinical experiences that are structured so that they can gain awareness of what learning looks like in our region, how the communities in the region view and understand learning, and how they as educators can begin to understand their own role in this community as an educator. Candidates examine their own dispositions for teaching and begin to develop the cultural competence and capacity to lead that only comes through experience, and that will enable them to design learning experiences that support the learning of all students in the community. As candidates develop the necessary content knowledge and understanding of human development and learning, they move into full-blown clinical experiences. These are professional work experiences where the candidate takes on a major role and responsibility, even though it is still under the guidance of a seasoned professional. These clinical experiences are aligned to specific courses in the Professional Educator Development Program. The courses and experiences together focus on how theory translates into actual teaching practice, how professional educators design different types of learning experiences, and how professionals teach specific content well, such as math, science, language arts, or music. Candidates in these experiences move from observing to actively learning from others and designing many different types of learning experiences for many different learners. Their practice in these settings is assessed, as is their developing knowledge and skill, through specific performance assessments. The capstone clinical experience is the residency, which includes the semester-long student teaching experience. And this is not your regular student teaching. In the residency, the candidate actually assumes from the very beginning the lead role in designing instruction for an entire semester in a professional setting. This experience is a demonstration of their ability to fulfill and demonstrate all of the required proficiencies of the professional educator, such as designing effective learning over long periods of time and for short periods of time, assessing student learning to make sure that the learning that you've designed is actually having the impact that you want, and differentiating instruction using culturally relevant practice. In all of this work, candidates use the instructional technology and tools that best support student learning, be it apps or interactive whiteboards or other technologies that haven't yet been developed. These clinical experiences are the foundation of the pathways that candidates will follow. These candidates lead to specific kinds of licensure, so we've been describing them in that way. There is an initial licensure pathway. There is an alternative route licensure pathway. And I'm going to actually start with the last pathway that's up there, and that's the continuous professional development pathway. Until today, I really was struggling with how to describe what this advanced professional development pathway really looks like. It's one that's already ongoing. You don't have to wait for 2013 to get involved in this pathway. UW Parkside currently has strong and ongoing partnerships with the districts in our region, Shannon McGuire and Maricela Wood. I don't think I can do that. Work with districts and individual educators in the region to design essential professional development experiences. This is an example of the catalog. This is the catalog for the experiences for this summer. And in this catalog, you can see, and I know you can't see very well, but here, for the individual educator who wants professional development and is seeking their own path. Here, the Pearl Institute, provided by Kenosha Unified, which is a targeted professional development process that is designed to meet certain objectives for the professional development of all the teachers in the district, and not just the teachers. The Chilwaukee Academy, which most of you are already familiar with, which is a regional collaboration that brings together districts that look really at what are the professional development needs of our region right now, and how do we meet them. And finally, the Common Core Standards, this little apple here. This is a national initiative where we are all moving to Common Core Standards in English and math, and we are providing professional development for educators to understand what those Common Core Standards and how they will impact their teaching in the years to come. And then finally, we have a process by which we are actually aligning our own development of the mentors and cooperating teachers and other supporting faculty, professional faculty, through our continuing professional development program. So they'll be working with our students as they come out of their licensure program and as they go through their licensure program and come out into the field. And beginning in 2013, we'll offer an initial licensure pathway for degree-seeking students early in their development. That's the top one. And those will be candidates who declare their intention to enter education. In other words, candidates who meet that early declaration profile. They may have some college under their belts, they may not. For these students, the initial licensure pathway leads to a degree in a discipline and a license to teach at one of 3 different developmental levels. The first is called Middle Childhood, Early Adolescence, and if you want to know who those kids between ages 6 to 12, think grade school mostly, sometimes early middle school. There's Early Adolescence. I did not come up with these names. This is DPI, yes. Early teens to young adults, think late middle school and early high school. And then there are Early Childhood Adolescence programs, which is the all-age license for fields such as music education that really look towards lifelong development of a major capacity or skill. The degree-seeking pathway is one that purposefully aligns learning experiences in the major disciplines such as English or biological sciences with professional learning around how to teach content in a discipline in either the preclinical or clinical placements, and of course during the residency period. In 2014, we'll begin accepting candidates who are late declaration transfer students or post-baccalaureate candidates. In other words, candidates who already have significant college or actually professional experience in other areas. Late declaration and transfer students will most likely still need the degree, and so they will follow the degree-seeking pathway to the initial license, but they'll enter it on their own and individualized plan. Post-baccalaureate students will have pretty interesting experience, we think, because they will be basically following just the core professional educator development plan, and there are ways that we plan to modularize and really embed them in the work of the schools in ways that don't rely on the 16-week semester schedule as much as it does on their own pace of development and what the experiences that are available to them in the schools. Candidates who want to follow the alternative route to licensure might already have a license or a degree, and they really want to go into high needs areas, which currently are technology education, special education, and bilingual, bicultural education. We have developed regional partnerships with other educational institutions to create streamlined pathways in these critical areas as well. And so we begin. We are working with our partners to finalize the maps of pathways through the majors that develop critical cross-disciplinary knowledge and skill in reasoning, communication, and problem solving. We're finalizing the syllabi. We are finalizing the syllabi of the courses and modules in the professional core and the clinical experiences, creating the key assessments of learning and practice, and filling in the details of the structure of the partnerships that will provide and evaluate the developed learning and practice demonstrated in clinical settings. Our house is framed. Now we're concentrating on the finishing details that make all the difference in the quality of the living experience and environment that house will provide. So it is now my honor to introduce the Chancellor of UW Parkside, Debbie Ford.
Good evening. Wow, I don't know about you, but I think you can see and you've heard how busy and productive we have been at the University of Wisconsin Parkside this past year. And we are truly focused on academic excellence and student success, but we are also focused on educator development. I'd like to recognize one of our regents, Jose Vasquez, as a member of the Board of Regents and a big supporter of the University of Wisconsin Parkside. And Jose, thank you for being here today. I am very proud of where we are as a campus and where we are as a community. And I first have to extend my personal thanks to our coordinating council and the design team members and the wonderful staff and colleagues in the Office of Teacher Preparation and Professional Development who have contributed greatly to bringing us to this point. So if you'll join me in giving them a round of applause, I cannot say thank you enough to them. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the members of our business and civic communities who have shared their time, their energy, their passion, and their thinking throughout the design process that have brought us to where we are today. As you have heard and have been reminded, preparing educators for the 21st century is an important role for public higher education, and at the University of Wisconsin Parkside, we are leading the effort in bringing forward a program that addresses the challenges like technology, globalization, limited resources, and human relations into our 21st century classrooms and society as a whole. As Provost Brown mentioned, I have the good fortune of serving on a national commission, the CAPE Commission on Standards and Performance Reporting for Teacher Preparation. And one of the resources that they had us read, and I later found out it was part of the framework for the Coordinating Council, is this document. And it is produced by NCATE in 2010. And it was produced by the Blue Ribbon Commission. And the title of this publication is Transforming Teacher Education Through Clinical Practice, a National Strategy to Prepare Effective Teachers. And I have to share with you a few quotes. And I think it frames what we are doing at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. And I quote, "The education of teachers in the United States needs to be turned upside down. To prepare effective teachers for the 21st century, for 21st century classrooms, teacher education must shift away from a norm which emphasizes academic preparation and coursework loosely linked to school-based experiences. Rather, it must move to programs that are fully grounded in clinical practice and interwoven with academic content and professional courses. This demanding, clinically based approach will create varied and extensive opportunities for candidates to connect what they learn with the challenge of using it while under the expert tutelage of skilled clinical educators. Candidates will blend practitioner knowledge with academic knowledge as they learn by doing. They will refine their practice in the light of new knowledge acquired and data gathered about whether their students are learning." It goes on to say that teachers need to be prepared in new ways to be effective and fully prepared for the uncertainties and challenges they will confront in 21st century classrooms. They also note that these challenges can only be accomplished if state and district leaders, college presidents and education deans, and other policymakers recognize their common interest and reshape teacher education as true partnerships, end quote. That is a fabulous summary of the work that we are doing at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside with your support. At UW-Parkside, we remain inspired, committed, and confident that the introduction of this totally new program to prepare teachers for the rigors of educating others is a bold move in a positive direction. And we know the program we will begin offering in the fall of 2013 will be outstanding in every way. As a university, we are proud of our rich heritage in serving the needs of our students and our contribution to our region. And we are energized and inspired by our future and our future together. So thank you so much for being here today to learn more about the educator development pathways at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside. And it is my pleasure to introduce Ashley Stake, and I want to thank her for her involvement in coordinating today's community briefing, and we will take a few questions. So Ashley, thank you very much.
Now we're moving into the question and answer portion of tonight's briefing, and so I want to welcome back the presenters along with John Majerus. And for this portion of the evening, if you do have a question, please raise your hand and someone will come with a microphone. And please stand up. Once you get the microphone, state your name, and then please ask your question. We're very interested in questions and not speeches, so I will hurry you along to the question part of your question if you don't get there. So, all right, I see quite a few hands, so right there.
Good evening, Jeannie Fensroy from the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. First, I want to commend the panel and the committee and the council for what you're doing. I really believe, teacher quality is where it's at for reforming education in the 21st century. My question is, how will the classroom look different? What will the kids be doing differently that they're not doing today based on a graduate from your program, your new program?
Well, I think that classroom's going to look different regardless of who's the teacher in that classroom, and we have to be ready for that. And the classrooms are already different, and I think Vicki and I can both speak to that. Classrooms are fully inclusive. Classrooms are filled with technology. Classrooms are filled with youngsters who have 24/7 access to technology, and they expect us to be ready for it. Classrooms are also filled with children who are coming from very difficult, challenging personal lives and experiences and carry sometimes burdens that we can't even begin to imagine. Luckily for us, they'll usually tell us everything. I think the classroom is there. And I don't want to monopolize this, but the challenge is that we have to educate every single one of them to high standards. And if you were in my 5th grade class, it only had to be about 20% of us who got to college. That was good enough. And probably 10% of those who got through college. That was good enough. Good enough today is so dramatically different. And that's what we need to do, is prepare people who can be part of that team to meet that dramatically different classroom.
Did you want to respond again, or should we move on? Okay. Next question. Go ahead, Sarah. Back there.
Fran Martin, concerned citizen. I notice when I look at the list of members of the coordinating council and design team members, I don't see any, I see a number of academic disciplines. I don't see any math, science, or engineering members, and I'm wondering if perhaps they're simply not identified as such on this, or if there aren't any there, because I think the U.S. is weak in terms of international scores in those areas. So I think that is an area of great concern.
Okay. I can speak to that. They're definitely there. We had chemists, we had people from the the health sciences. We had faculty and math educators from both public, private schools, as well as the university. We had a very, very deliberate process of inviting people to be part of this design team process. And I can honestly say that we didn't have enough room on this piece of paper to list all of the different credentials that they had. And STEM was actually a huge focus, and actually STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, in that it was really clear that that is a need for the region, that the need to develop capacity for teaching science and math is a critical need of the region, and I'm actually going to ask Vicki to speak to that.
Absolutely. As part of the coordinating council, we did have very rigorous conversations that it did include faculty from University of Wisconsin Parkside around making sure that there was a focus on looking at the math and science aspect. So that has been addressed, and you're probably correct in saying that the credentials that individuals have may be a long list, and that may not be reflected on the document that you have.
Okay, we have another question in the back.
Karen Kelroy, and I have two quick questions. One, with your licensing, are you going to be able to license both in the state of Wisconsin and in Illinois? Will your graduates be able to get the license for either state? And my second question is, I did not notice that you had pre-K or kindergarten licensing, and I was wondering how that is going to play out in the future. Thank you.
Okay. First, around the licensing. State licensing is really a state responsibility. So there are lots of collaborations across states at the national level. All states are pretty interested in creating a much more portable credential, and so they try very hard to do that. We will definitely be making sure that the licensing that we do for Wisconsin, which is our state agency, is really consistent with what's required in Illinois, and we are looking, and will continue to look for developing reciprocity. I don't believe that we have full reciprocity at this particular point, and that's a political decision. It's not something that's in our hands per se. And then I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Pat for the other part.
I thought she was going to do both of them, so the early childhood, kindergarten. Our program is rolling out at a certain level just based on our own capacity, and we're hoping to grow other programs as we go. So if you don't see it now, doesn't mean it won't be there, just like we don't have graduate programs at this point, but I know the university would be interested in that and some other kinds of development. So it's not there yet, you're right, but we hope that we can develop that.
Great. We have a question there, and then we'll come up front here.
Good evening, Jay Nixon, private practice attorney. One of the previous speakers mentioned technology being a disruptive influence in teacher education. Could you elaborate on that a little bit and explain how you plan to deal with that fact?
Education is one of the few enterprises in the past 100 years that hasn't really been too perturbed by technology. I mean, I still use chalkboards when I was teaching undergraduate classes. I still use chalkboards when I was teaching graduate classes. The shift to whiteboards, just like not fully functional media whiteboards, but just whiteboards, happened within the past 10 to 15 years for many of us. Technology has basically disrupted the whole way in which people acquire knowledge, information, and has provided just incredible access to the kind of historic knowledge base that you could only hope to find in university libraries or in school classrooms or in textbooks. We're moving away from textbooks. We're moving away from print in a lot of ways. And that kind of disruption challenges us on so many different levels, because at this time, while we're trying to sort of juggle with, okay, now how do we actually get this information out there? We're learning the technologies ourselves, and frankly, we don't really know yet fully. We are still learning how to integrate this appropriately and effectively into our practice. So that's the disruptor right now. And interestingly enough, a little handheld telephone can now give you just as much access as you might have had 15, 20 years ago with an entire university education at your fingertips. So it is a big issue, and higher education is really, really working hard to deal with it, as is education at all levels.
We have more than one. I just wanted to say about the term disruption. I think Maureen's borrowing the term from, and using the term from Clayton Christensen, I believe, is the one who uses it. And so if you want to read more about disruptive technologies or disruptive industries, that would be the source of it. But disruption really can have a negative connotation, but it also can be positive. And so I think that it's a double-edged there, that we want to use it. It also can be generative of really new ways of thinking and innovation, and certainly that's what my iPad has been for me. It's a distraction, but it's also been incredibly rewarding as a technological tool. So I think that's.
And I would like to take this back to the first question, because I heard that question as, how will the university classes be different? And so my answer to that is that students are bringing into the classroom technology that often faculty don't feel comfortable with. And that's one way that a classroom today at the university is different. And a faculty member who really is trying to reach students will let students reach out with what they can do. And so I think that's one way. I just see that changing in the classroom already. And so I know that that will impact the classes that will be taught in this program.
We have another question right here, Richard, and then Larry.
Hi, I'm Dick Aylett, a retired counselor in Racine. I was real pleased to hear that you were talking about possible teachers getting into the classroom early, because I remember back, years ago when you get your training and get your theory, and then there you are as a senior. Good luck. And the second part that kind of interests me a little too, I think a lot of young people get into teaching because they've loved the teacher, they really like their schools and whatever, and they get their knowledge and they're so enthusiastic and they're ready to change the world and train students. But it seems like within the first year or two, a lot of people leave the education field because of classroom management or discipline. And I know a lot of my fellow educators have said, I would have liked the whole class, not just theory, but really more realistic about class discipline. Could you talk a little about that, please?
Vicki's probably. I'm happy to speak about that. It's very interesting. As I was sharing earlier, as I was speaking about human relations and globalization, an aspect of what has been missing from a lot of teacher prep types of programs are preparing our teachers for interacting with and educating all students. As was said earlier, in many years ago, the responsibility for the classroom teacher was not to educate all students. There were some students who may have had a different language, which was their first language, or students who may come from a different culture, which was not the culture of the teacher or the culture of the school. And so the beauty of this program is that it is taking all of those pieces into consideration. And truly, the classroom management comes from oftentimes many teachers who are unable to relate authentically and effectively with their students and be able to meet the needs that they have and authentically assess the needs that they have and recognize what the gifts that the students bring to the table, as well as the supports that they need. So the beautiful thing with UW Parkside's program is when they speak about cultural competence, oftentimes we see that our students of color are the students who are being identified as students who are having issues with behavior. Many of the challenges is that the behaviors are just different than what the teachers have experienced it in their life as students or experienced as adults. So that cultural competency piece, I feel very confident, will help eliminate a lot of the need for management. We need to educate our students, not manage them.
Okay.
Good evening. Larry Joswick, Educator. And I have a question that kind of segues off the previous one. and you have a very innovative foundation and framework that you've built up over the last year or two. But my question is, now you're going to need some very strong bricks. Now, those bricks are going to be in the form of classes at the university level and also clinical educators who are good role models. And how are you going to go about doing that? Because obviously the classes that maybe have been taught in the past may not fit your new model.
We really have looked at it. I think John turned it off.
Hello. Too many microphones.
John was done talking. We've looked hard at that because we think that that is an issue. And part of what we've done over this past year is develop some outreach and some partnerships and some understandings that we need to invite people in terms of schools and classrooms, but really schools. Many of us had our student teaching with a great single classroom teacher, but we weren't part of a system. We weren't part of a professional learning community. We thought being great was going into a classroom and shutting the door and sort of running that like an entrepreneur and our own little fruit stand there, trying to sell education. It's not that way, and it can't be that way. So our partnerships for clinical placements have to be with schools that are really grappling with the challenges, that are outwardly really working at professional learning communities, at assessment, at cultural competencies, and we found so many people willing to partner with us and to step up to that challenge. And our courses are being redesigned, frankly. Yeah. We're starting from the ground up. So we've looked at what do they really need, and we're building that and not recycling the old.
Okay, we have time for one more question, one or two more questions. Why don't we have Victor and then right there.
Victor Frazier. I just have two quick questions. This is all very, very good information. What is your plan for the measurement for 5 years down the road to see that you're actually doing what you set out to do? And then the second question is how do you plan on sharing what you've done? I know everybody in the room is all abuzz about it, but how do you plan on getting the word out in fall of 2013? Thank you.
Can I answer the first question? Victor, the former principal at 21st Century Prep, said to me, I would hire anyone from blank program. You can fill in the blank. She was referring to a program, another program. And I said, that's what I want in 5 years to hear from every principal. I will hire anyone from UW Parkside's program. That's my measurement. Okay, that's a simple measurement. But I know that they have other measurements as well. That's mine.
I know that we've really looked hard at how we're going to assess whether or not this program is having the impacts that we want. And so some of that assessment is, of course, going to be looking at the candidates as they go through whatever development they're going through. And that does include their continuous professional development, their development as they continue on their career path. So there are assessments that we are looking at, and most of those are performance assessments. There are performance assessments that actually look at whether or not the students that you work with, the learners that you work with, are actually learning, and how do you know that? So that's another really important measure for us that we can, and believe me, this is not an easy thing to actually assess, whether or not you've had an impact on the learning of any particular student. But we're working on how to do that at the individual teacher-student level, and we're working on how to gather that data to look at how across the program, where are there places in the program that we start to see, there are some real strengths in cultural competence. How do we know that? Because we actually do assessments of dispositions, and then we look at the impact of those dispositions on the way that teachers are actually performing in the classroom. So we have multiple measures. Those measures are going to be mostly based on performance, and we're going to continue to collect data again, I told you, you're never going to get rid of us. Once you get into our program, we will be working with you for the rest of your professional career as long as you let us. And so we'll be using those relationships and that sort of opportunity for long-term look at outcomes to look at our own program.
The other question was promoting the program. You're part of it. We expect you all to go and tell at least 10 people how exciting this is. But we also have a communication team headed up by Mary Jo Jeiter, and Maureen Bagg is on that team, Tammy Witt, we other people. We have our own media people here, John, and I think Dave is here someplace. And so we have a program of recruiters and admissions people who are working very hard and are right on our heels all the time to get us to give them some more stuff so that they can get out there. We are a regional university. People come to us first if we're there and we've got their program. They also stay in the region and we'll talk to others about what we're doing. We have a great network of alumni, and our alumni are very excited about the changes that are coming and the opportunity to be involved with things. So we really count on that grassroots to make a difference for us.
We have a final question in the blue. Right there.
Terry.
Carrie? Terry.
Hi, my name's Terry Steidel, and I'm a member of the advisory board for the business school, as well as a former VP of HR and a management consultant in the area of talent. And one of my questions relates to educating all students and preparing the teachers to not just educate the 20%. As somebody who sees on a daily basis the gap of talent out there, and we have high unemployment and a lot of open jobs at all levels in society. And the question is, what other competencies beyond the cultural are you training your educators for to prepare them to educate all those students?
Okay, that is a wonderful last question. One of the design teams that was formed was called the Learning Curriculum Design Team, and it was part of a larger cluster that really looked at what is it that constitutes the kind of learning that prepares anyone for life in the 21st century. And we do have some answers to that question. Essentially, critical thinking skills is very important, and being able to apply that critical reasoning and thinking to solving problems. And that means that those problems that you're solving don't necessarily have the textbook solution. These are open-ended problems that have multiple solutions. Well, that requires being able to take multiple perspectives, which means you have to learn how to step outside of your own perspective. So we know that one of the major things that we have to develop is actually, in adult learning literature, there's this term, this transformation through different stages of adult development. We don't stop developing when we hit 18 just because we got out of high school, and all of our development doesn't happen between the ages of 0 and 4 years old just because that's what psychologists really tend to look at a lot. That development means transforming from an awareness, first of all, developing an awareness of yourself, to developing an awareness of yourself and others, and then developing an awareness of how you and the other come together to become the we. And then, and all of this sounds kind of metaphysical, I know, but the upshot of that is that you begin to develop a sense of my perspective, your perspective, our perspective. Together we can work on this kind of a problem. And it allows for, and that happens across multiple disciplines. This is in fact the foundation of most of our disciplines, is developing that exact kind of way of thinking about the world. And that's why we have as a strong focus that requirement that people complete a degree in an academic discipline if they're going through our program, rather than a degree in education, which is another question we've gotten quite a bit. It's because we need to develop that kind of understanding of how we work together. So those kinds of skills we're looking at, and they can be, and if you can develop that within the learners that you work with, they can make their own choices as to what directions they want to follow. We're not preparing everybody to go to college, because not everybody really wants or needs to go to college, maybe. We are preparing people to make their own life decisions and be able to make them well because they understand the decisions that they're making.
Another aspect of what we've looked at as the coordinating council is listening to what we've heard in the business and civic community. So thank you for bringing up the business perspective. And we have learned that the business community is not necessarily looking for someone who can get all 100 problems correct. They're looking for someone who can work with the person in the cubicle next to them and problem solve. They're looking for these aspects that are also part of our Common Core standards. So it's something that our school districts are looking at, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but nationally, as we look at Common Core standards. I spoke about collaboration, working together toward from a positive outlook toward a common goal. That's a huge part of what schools are looking to do. That's a huge part of what we have influenced this program to make sure that that is a big part of what the educators who are a part of this program not only learn how to support in students, but then themselves model some of those aspects. So absolutely, we have to prepare our students to be able to access any kind of life skill or position that they want in the future, but they've got to be able to do more than conjugate verbs. They really are going to have to work with other people and be problem solvers and risk takers and thinking outside of the box, just what we're training our students to do along with that Common Core as it's pushing us forward to that 21st century preparation.
Okay. Go ahead. You want to add something?
I just wanted to say one thing, and that is, as you have listened to us talk, I think you can tell that our program will be demanding, and that word we used as we were talking, and I think that the Chancellor referred to that word demanding in the report that she referenced. I know that, and we talked about the promoting of it, and we want many people to be interested and many people to come through, but we have very high expectations for our students, and we'll have very high expectations for our graduates. They must know their subjects. They must know the subjects that they're teaching, and they must know and understand the students that they'll be teaching. And that is the bar that we will set for every one of those candidates for teaching. And we talked about qualifications. We'll be looking at qualifications very carefully for the students that we will be licensing, and we will look at qualifications of all the teams that will be working together to get those students to that point. It will be a program that will take a lot of resources, but we believe that it's going to be worth it. And we know that it will be worth it for what it will produce in our community. So again, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes the question and answer portion of our evening tonight, and now I know there were quite a few questions that probably went unanswered, but we have a perfect opportunity for you to ask them over at Wingspread for refreshments and for the hospitality portion of tonight's event. So let's give everybody one final round of applause.